And action. We are on video, Mark.
Yeah, well, yes, we are. It's supposed to be lights, camera, action. We should probably get that bit right, no?
Yeah. So an error right at the beginning. But the
Yeah.
photography bar now is on video. So
Yes,
and so you can see us now. Um,
absolutely. I mean, it's looking pretty cool around here. I think we may have overdone it with the old logos, but yeah,
branding. It's good branding. It's good
good
branding. But we'll have a look at
branding.
it. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
have a look at it again. Okay. Oh, and also, for those of you that see Shutter, for those of you that are long-term listeners to the show, Shutter Shout is something that we did for quite some time actually when we
Yeah.
started the show. But it sort of phased it out, and now we're going to bring it back again because some people have mentioned it. Now, for those of you that don't know what Shutter Shout is, keep on listening to the episodes that are coming up because it is something for everyone. It's something that everyone can join in with,
Yes,
and it's
absolutely.
just a bit of fun for all
A bit
photographers.
of fun.
Now,
Absolutely.
yeah. Now, Mark, straight into it. Okay, so some of you may have seen on the news in the last few days. I saw it on BBC News twice, which is really good. A feature on an exhibition that was being held by Canon called World Unseen, the photography exhibition that you don't see, that you don't need to see. And this was held at Somerset House in London and brought to you by Canon. This immersive, first of its kind photography exhibition enables everyone, blind, partially sighted, and sighted visitors to experience imagery in an entirely new way. Now, we were very kindly invited to the launch on the day before the public exhibition opened, and there was plenty of press and media there, which was really good to see. So Mark went along, and Mark, tell us before we jump into the interviews, because Canon very kindly lined up some exclusive interviews for us here at the Photography Bar. And so before we jump into those, tell us what you saw there, Mark. Tell us a little bit about it briefly.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a really sort of it was a fantastic exhibition, really. It was something that I've not seen before. Now, first off, I just want to say this was in partnership with the RNIB, which is the Royal National Institute of Blind People. So they were very much involved in this as well, which is what makes this so authentic in what they were trying to do. But yeah, so basically a collection of photographers. I think they were all Canon ambassadors at least, or they were had a very much link with Canon. Canon asked these photographers if they could use some of their work, well, a picture of their work. So this wasn't, as you'll hear in interviews, it wasn't an image that most of the photographers chose. I think one photographer did choose their own work, but most of them it was asked for by Canon, that specific picture for this exhibition. And basically, the you had these different areas of the exhibition where you'd see the work, and the work would be on a great big sort of plinth in front of you, but it would be obscured in a certain way. And that obscurement was to basically allow sighted people like yourself and me to understand what it would be like with a certain visual impairment. So looking at that photo with that impairment over it, which you'll see in some of the footage that we've got. Um, so you could actually experience that as much as a sighted person can. But also they had the same picture, just a little bit lower, which was raised in certain ways, and it had texture on it. So people who are do suffer from sort of visual impairment can run their hands over it, and they can sort of feel the picture, experience the picture. I mean, things like this have been done before, but not to this extent. The technology is far more advanced to what had been done before. But it was really good, and it was really about understanding the different senses. Everything was in Braille. You also had a button which you could press when the photographer would then, you'd hear the photographer talking about their picture, describing it, not just what you're seeing in front of you, but also the history behind the photo, why the photographer was engaged in this project, just so that everyone could understand and enjoy the work. It was really, really good. There was this other part where you could eat a little bit of fish and then you put the headphones on, and then there was also this smell bit as well, so you could smell, hear the sea, and also eat this bit of fish. It was really clever. Really, really, a lot of ingenuity involved in this, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And yeah,
Hmm.
basically, as you said, we managed to interview some of the photographers that were there. We also got to interview Martin Faulkner, who was the guy who was involved in the printing element of it. So yeah, it was fantastic, really, really cool. And yeah, here's how we got on.
Okay, so I am here with Martin Faulkner, and he is the marketing director of the Wide Print Group. That's right, excellent. That was a bit of a mouthful there, once to get that right. I just wanted to have a chat about this awesome exhibition that you put on. Tell me a little about it. How did it start? How did it come across? I would also, in a minute, like to talk about the printing process, because I would be interested in that as well.
Of course, yeah.
So first of all, yeah, how did you come across this? How did you think about, this is something I want to do?
Canon has a philosophy of kiyosei, which is a Japanese word that means living and working for the common good. And it's something that, if we think about imagery, we're famous for our photography and our camera and imaging business, as well as print as well. And I think if we think about imagery, we want imagery to be able to be experienced by everybody, not just those who are sighted. And knowing that we had technology in the print business that enabled the production of an elevated printing to structure, that really started us to think about how can we utilize that to help everybody experience imagery, and working very closely with organizations like the RNIB in the UK. They helped us to then think about how do we create the right level of imagery, and how do we elevate it and create a structure that then enables print to tell the right stories.
Because it is very different. It's very different to what has gone before, and things like this have done before. I have seen things, but nowhere near to this. And so, was that something that you kind of just thought, well, we can develop on what's gone before, or did you just go, no, scrap that, we're going to start this because of the elevated technology that you have?
Well, it's about making imagery accessible to everybody. I think that was the kind of the heart of it. And then also looking at the access to the content that we have through our ambassador photographers, the access to the kind of stories, but also how we use that to create inspiration for the print service providers who use our technology, how we inspiring them to think about how they can use print differently. I've worked in the print industry for 30 years, so I naturally love print. But for me, this is the best thing I've been involved with for a very long time. And I think we know that print can tell stories, print can communicate, print can create something beautiful that can decorate a room, but actually this takes it to a whole different level in the way that we can use print to now communicate and tell stories in a tactile and in a way through touch.
So talk to me about technology then, because obviously one of the things that amazes me is the decision-making process between what's level, what's not level, the different textures. I mean, obviously the obvious to sighted people, of course, is, a rhino feels like this and what have you, but above that though, because obviously we've got pictures of the lionesses, and obviously the texture of them sort of coming up. How did that decision-making process of that come about?
It's a really important part of the process. Exactly, because what our technology can do, it uses a UV print technology. So flatbed printers, they're normally, they're 2.5 by 3 meters wide, so a giant technology that's normally used for printing signage and display graphics and interior decor and packaging. But because it's a UV ink, so we inject the ink to the surface, it's instantly cured by UV light, and it creates a very hard structure. And that means we can create multiple layers to build up a texture. But then how you texture it is the key important part. So we worked with the RNIB at a specialist organisation called CBB in a collaboration, that they were able to advise us what parts of an image should be elevated, what parts of an image should stay flat, and what parts should be textured, so that they really told a story. And even down to things like the way it would be experienced would be different between people who were blind from birth or those who've become partially sighted during a lifetime, because they have a different frame of reference to the way they experience the world. So it's been an amazing learning experience for us about how we can employ technology that we've got to really, in a really finessed way, communicate in these kind of elements. And so it's a fantastic to hear the feedback that we've had and the impact it could really have for people to enjoy it.
I mean, I've been watching some of the video that you've got in there, and the sort of how these people experience these photos for the first time around, and the emotion that comes over them is incredible. It does move you very much, and it's something that sighted people like us, we take it for granted, don't we? And it's fantastic that people get to experience these things. And the other thing about this exhibition that is very prominent is experiencing how the effects of poor sight, I don't like using that word, visual impairment, that's the word, and the different types of visual impairment that we have. How did that come about? How did that, because you've got different impairments for different photos. Were they linked? Do you think that photo would best describe that impairment? Or was it something that you just thought, we just want to show the different ones, and it just goes over whatever?
Yeah, it was one of the things that we discussed this very early in the project, that we knew we could create an experience for people to enjoy the imagery through touch. But then we thought, well, actually, people who are coming to the exhibition who are sighted, there's also a learnings for them in terms of how other people see and experience the world. So that's where the idea came from, that very much the sighted visitors can also actually then really understand some of the different types of visual impairment. So we created these layers and these screens over the images of several different types. So some will simulate things like glaucoma or macular degeneration or diabetic retinopathy that really then enable any of us here to experience and see things how other people see and experience the world. So I think, to me, that adds a whole extra dimension to the power of the exhibition.
Well, it does, because as we just mentioned, people who are sighted, I mean, I do wear glasses, so I know what it's like when my glasses are off. I can't see anywhere near as well. I can't drive, things like that. It's nowhere near to the impairments that we're visiting here. But it does show actually an understanding how lucky we are. The fact that this really does show that, and I think it's marvellous, and I think it's a fantastic thing that you've done here. One last question: where do you see the future of this technology with that? Do you see that happening more and more now?
Yeah, it's something that we've used this technique for a few years in projects. We've created reproductions of paintings. A few years ago, we did Edvard Munch's, some of his works, the Scream, to actually create the outline, so that actually for children could actually then understand the characters and the landscape in those paintings. We've done it for reproductions of Rembrandt's works or Vermeer's Girl with the Pearl Earring. But I think that this takes it to a new element in terms of communication. So after this exhibition that runs from the 5th to the 7th of April in London, it will then tour around Europe. So all of our local Canon offices are looking at how they can work with their equivalents of the RNIB in the UK, but in France and Germany and so on, to actually really activate this and get this in front of as big an audience as we can. But then also, we have about 8,000 of the Arizona printers installed globally. So we want to inspire our customers who use that technology and the software that goes with it, that creates the clever files and prepares them in the right way, for them to think about how they can help us scale this and how they can use those new print applications and ideas on top of what they're doing currently. You can imagine it in galleries and museums and public spaces as a way that people can consume imagery. So we have very high hopes that this will really grow, and the momentum in Canon will support that.
Well, I guess it'd be nice when this is not a special thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just
exactly.
Exactly. What a fantastic goal to end this on, I think. So thank you very much.
No, thank you very much.
Really pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Hi there, so I am with Brent Sturton and Lawrence Gunther, and I just wanted to talk to you about this awesome image here about Sudan the rhino, and also how you came to be part of this awesome exhibition.
Sure.
So first of all, tell me about the work here. What's
this is actually from one of two essays I done on the rhino poaching crisis for National Geographic magazine. This image at the time, Sudan was the last surviving northern white male rhino in the world. He subsequently passed on, but to illustrate the 24/7 protection that he enjoyed, and the relationship he had with his caretakers.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing, because we're always used to seeing about how humans are poaching and all this, but to actually see this image about humans actually protecting as well, it's a marvellous image. And I understand there are strides to sort of repopulate, try and bring them back.
There's stem cell research, and there's the idea of implanting northern white sperm into southern white rhinos. Both of those are happening at the moment. Yep. We'll see where it goes.
Oh, fingers crossed. You can only hope, right?
Let's see.
But how did you get involved with this exhibition?
I do a lot of conservation work in Canada. We run a charity called Bluefish Canada, and it's all about getting people connected to nature and taking stewardship responsibility. So when I got the email saying, Lawrence, would you like to be part of this? I thought, well, it's just a joke. So I said, yeah, tell me more. And I came over here, and I met Brent on camera, and I got to meet his beautiful picture on camera. And it was just absolutely mind-bending. I've never seen technology like this in my life. I mean, I've seen stuff that's tried to do what this does, but nothing that came close like that.
I mean, how different is this technology to what you may have sort of experienced before?
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with the kids' toy Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah, I am, yes.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what a blind person had access to with Braille dots. Was kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch, kind of, on or off. I mean, it was good for lines or charts or maybe a little map, but it never gave a real picture quality of anything. So I think this technology is the closest I've ever come to, seeing with my fingers. Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. And when you first felt it, what was going through your mind? What you experienced?
Brent put my hand on the rhinoceros, and I thought, wow, that's so rough. And he said, that's what a rhinoceros feels like. That's what its skin feels like. So, to be able to feel the skin. I mean, people are looking at this picture, and they can see the texture. And then to be able to feel the texture, everyone, sighted or not, are going to want to feel this picture.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's wonderful. And how were you contacted, Brent, to get involved in this? And how come this image above others? And how was that process, really?
I mean, I wasn't part of choosing this picture, but I've been in the Canon Ambassador program since 2008.
Yep.
So I've had an ongoing relationship with them. Also, Canon knows that I did 2 essays on rhino poaching and that I did 2 essays on blindness around the world, including something on the future of blindness. And so this is a good fit, basically, I think this picture worked because it was also, it's the last of something.
Yes.
And the idea that, 300 million people in the world aren't able to actually see this, that's not a very democratic world. So for me, I think this is meaningful. And so it's one of those things where they come to you and they go, hey, we have this idea, and you go, sure.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
It's an absolute no-brainer. You want to be involved. Sure. Were there other images you thought would work just as well when it shows this one, or are you thinking, no, it's got to be this one?
I as I say, I didn't actually choose this picture. I wasn't involved in that at all. They came to me and said, we'd like to try this one.
Yeah.
I said, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense from a texture perspective. It's a hopeful picture. So it ticks a lot of boxes. And it's also a sufficiently esoteric moment that most people would never be able to access. So that works for me, on a number of levels.
When thinking about exhibiting future works, when you're creating the imagery for those future works, will you be thinking about this in mind now, when you take a future work?
I mean, I think it's going to come down to price.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's one of those things where, okay, so if I do a show in New York, I do a show at a major museum, etc., I can expect that there will be Braille interpretation of the exhibition theme. But I know that blind people are not foremost in the thinking of the curators. And that that's just the world. I get that. But certainly, as it goes, as we go forward, as this technology becomes more affordable, I mean, who knows? I'd love to see it happen.
Yeah.
But I love the idea more that kids who are partially sighted or blind would have access to this from an educational perspective.
Absolutely.
And that there's a way to incorporate this into learn. Because ultimately, those are the people I want to talk to most.
And Lawrence, final question for you. Do you see this sort of incredibly, being bigger than it is obviously today? Do you see the future of this being more? Obviously, we spoke about curators not really thinking about partially sighted people.
I think this is universal technology. One of my questions to Brent was, what do you see when you look at it? And he said, it's still a beautiful picture. It's a high definition. The colors are all there.
Yep.
It's truly universal technology, and we don't get that very often where everyone can access information through the same technology. And this does that. It checks the box. So there's no reason why this shouldn't be in school systems, this kind of technology, in museums, in art galleries. To convey the sort of central messages. Yeah, maybe not for every piece of art or every painting or every photograph, But it's not like 3D printing. You don't need shells of three-dimensional, printing. So this is still something you put into a photo album or hang on a wall.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for letting me have a chat with you guys.
Thanks for the cover, guys. This is super important.
No worries. Thank you very much. Okay, so I am with you, Gadsy here. Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you as well.
And tell me about your work and how you got involved in this fantastic exhibition.
Okay, well, I'll have to make a very long. Do you want a long story?
We can have a long story.
Okay, great. Yeah. So once upon a time in the year 2016, the process of relearning bodies is actually one of my first projects that I started as a photographer. Kind of jumped into the photography world in 2016, and I've learned that, and thankfully I knew this from the beginning, which is your personal work is always going to be your best work. Yeah. And so I decided to do a project that stemmed from personal experience, which was I have a scar that I got growing up in Nigeria. Got run over by a car. And my experience with the scar was very different from growing up in Nigeria to when I moved to the States.
Oh, and in what way?
So in Nigeria, where I grew up, it's very open. So I have this huge scar on my leg, walking down the street, and, people would just be like, oh my God, no. Yeah. Or someone say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But then when I got to the States, it was an entirely different culture where people would just look and look away.
Yeah.
And I wasn't used to that, and I instantly thought something is wrong with me. So I went and I wore pants for 2 years straight because I was
in the States?
In Albuquerque, New Mexico. So very hot. Very hot. But then with this project, it got me thinking in terms of how our community and our environment affects the way that we see ourselves. Yeah. I was very confident in Nigeria because everyone treated me like nothing was wrong. Yeah. But then in the States, the perception was very different. But then also tied with, when I was doing research with scars, it was also tied to what I would see online when it came to black and brown people and scars. Yeah. Because as an African photographer, I was like, I want to see if there work similar to this. But what I saw was quite jarring in the sense of a lot of the pictures around black and brown people with scars was around a violent narrative. So people who were caught in conflicts, people who had acid thrown on them, honor killings, that sort of violence around it. But not just that, I saw the way they were photographed, and a visual I can give you is of this woman I saw, I think it was in the Congo, where she had a huge scar across her chest, and then she was sitting on the floor. And her chest is exposed, I guess, to obviously get the scar. But the one thing that confused me was, why is she on the floor?
Yeah. And I guess the view was looking down as well.
Exactly, but then it's also this thing of the power dynamic of having a white male photographer come and photograph a vulnerable woman. Yeah. There's so many other ways to photograph people with dignity. She could have sat on the chair. She could have had a fabric over. She could have stood. Yeah. She could have had a fabric over there, So I was just like, where are the stories of just non-violence, everyday accidents like I had? So I basically started traveling around. I photograph opportunistically. Yes. So if I see you have a scar, I was like, oh, that's beautiful. Tell me about it. And then I photograph if you give me permission and whatnot. But then with this particular body of work, Canon reached out to me. Right. And took them a while in terms of getting our schedules right because I was traveling.
It was just that community and all that, right?
Exactly. And then when they did reach out to me and told me about the project, it was just an immediate yes. Yeah. And this is something that I've been saying throughout this project in terms of I felt this thing of shame where I've been a visual artist for so many years, and not once did I ever think about someone not experiencing photographs the way I photograph. Experience photographs. I'd never once thought about it. And I was just like, how privileged of me, just how it's not good, and I was just like, absolutely yes. So I sat down with Canon and they gave different options. They had some ideas of works that they wanted to show already, and this wasn't one of them.
Oh, was it? I was going to ask, how come this work?
I showed it
because you've done lots of stuff. So
I was
this
like,
that was personal
what's a good idea in terms of also something that I can talk about, because I started this in 2016 and I'm still doing it now. As a photojournalist, some of the stories I work on, I might work on it for a week. Yeah. I might work on it for 2 days. But I was like, I want to be able to talk about something that I
Well, this sounds like it's a life's work.
Yeah.
Would that be right?
Yes.
Rather than a paid commission.
Oh yeah,
doing
no.
something else.
Once again, your personal work is always going to be your best work.
Yes, of course.
This is.
Because you're personally invested in it.
Yeah,
and
this is it. And you have more passion for it. You might not be getting paid for it.
Well, yeah.
Ideally, yes. But what's good about it is that it always comes back. So years later, you know, Canon is saying they would love to use this image within the context of this exhibition. Yeah.
And was it just this photo? I mean, I'd imagine you have quite a range of photos within this personal. So what was it about this photo that you thought this is the one I want for people to experience?
I think I wanted more. I was like, you know, does it have to be one image?
You want the whole exhibition to be yours, is that right? Yeah.
I was like, give me all the space, give me all the room. But what I initially wanted is that this image represents a midway point of the actual project.
I see.
So the current place of the project now is that it actually zooms into the scar and removes the human form entirely. So when you look at it, you can't tell whether you're looking at a cracked riverbed or like some aspect of the earth, because
making a landscape out of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to normalize scars and have people draw the connection that the way our body heals is in line with what exists in nature.
Yeah.
So let's normalize that.
Yeah.
But then with this particular image, Canon was drawn to it.
Yeah.
Just in terms, especially for this project, in terms of people being able to feel a body.
Yeah.
You know, run their hands along her arms, you know, feel her hair. Those little details, I think, really adds to the sort of experience of like, you're feeling this woman's body and then you feel that scar, you know, and it becomes more personal rather than if it was just a zoomed in rough surface. And you're like, I'm not sure what this is.
Well, it's a context, isn't it?
Exactly.
And obviously that's perfect for any exhibition, never mind this.
Yes.
One, so yeah, well, it's a fantastic piece.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
No
Thank you very
problem.
much.
So I am here with Samo. Lovely to meet you, Samo. How you doing? Fantastic image here. Just tell me a little bit about it, about Darko.
Yeah, we did this with Darko, I think 5 years ago. I did a project with disabled athletes and different athletes, and one of them was Darko. I knew him from before.
Yeah.
He lives 10 minutes from where I live, but I knew him from the media mostly because he was a Paralympic athlete, and he was on my list to do one project with him. I called him and he was immediately ready to do it.
Yes.
And, my idea was to shoot him underwater because of his, you can see really.
Well, that's where you get most of him, isn't it?
Yeah. If I would shoot from out of the water, you can show actually his condition, I think I got this after 10 minutes maybe of shooting. And
wow, okay.
Yeah.
10 minutes, I'm done.
No, we got more. I was actually pushing him a little bit too much because at some point he said, Sam, I'm a little bit tired. I was fooling.
Well, we don't think about it, do we?
I forgot.
Doing whatever.
He's a not normal swimmer,
Yeah.
So, but he's so nice guy. And for me, he's probably the biggest motivation. And then, how he lives his life, like normal life, without any problems he's had what the other people think,
Just focused.
He does everything like he's normal.
Yeah. And how did you get involved with this fantastic exhibition?
Canon called me and they said that they would love to use this photo for
this particular one.
Exactly, this one. And I was up to do it immediately because I did some, like this project we did before already. I did some stuff for blind people as well. Back home, we always did exhibition and an auction of the photos and all the money went to the blind people. And, somehow I can understand them because I cannot see on my eye. On my right eye,
oh really?
Only 10%.
Oh, I see. Oh, so this
is like bird, so maybe I can understand them a little bit more.
Very personal to you, then.
It is. And before we talked here, and they were touching, and we were discussing, and they were how they were excited to see, the picture just with touching. For me, it was really special feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was something that. So obviously I read about this image, so I do a little bit of research, but, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but it was something along the lines of how we should look at sports differently. And it's really about how people are kind of pushing themselves. And I kind of feel that's similar to what this exhibition is about as well.
Yeah, I mean, all these taboos, it's, I don't know, so my uncle, he's deaf, and I talked to him since I was a baby, like he's normal person, and maybe from there I have this feeling for people with different disabilities, and it's to help them or to see them how they're happy if you somehow help them or give them something that they didn't experience before. It's for me such a big honor, and I really feel I would before I was that close to cry because they were so excited.
Yeah, but to have it and have an audience you wouldn't normally necessarily experience this.
So the people now can see here, how many different how do you say
yes.
No defects.
No, I know what you mean. Problems with vision, I guess.
How many different problems with vision people have? It's even I didn't know that there's so many different. Because sometimes they said, "Oh, he's blind," or at least he can see nothing.
Yes.
But it's not.
We don't know all the different ins and outs.
It's not like that.
The different variations. Did you choose this particular?
No, this is how Mana on the video, the skier, how she sees.
I see.
It's her.
It's right. Okay.
Her vision. Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah. So again, that's personal. Again, to that.
No, that's how she sees the world.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's this whole exhibition is such an amazing thing to see, and thank you for being part of it.
No problem. Thanks.
And let me speak to you, and thank you for letting me have a chat with you today.
Thank you.
Right then, so I'm here with Ian. Lovely to meet you, Ian, and I just wanted to have a chat with you about this fantastic piece of work you got here and how you got involved with this exhibition. So first of all, the work. Tell me a little bit about this lovely woman I see.
Well, I'm a photographer from Essex, Southend. I've got a condition called RP type 2, which means I'm deaf-blind. I've been blind since the age 15, and I started photography about 15 years ago.
Right, okay.
And I think doing photography, I kind of hurt a lot of brains along the way, because photography and blindness don't really come together, in society. So, I use photography as a medium to sort of help educate, but also, create artwork at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, Canon approached me sometime last year, to be approached by Canon and being one of their users for many years now. It's an absolute dream come true.
Yes, of course.
They asked me to get involved, talked about this kind of exhibition that they wanted to do.
Yep.
And, when I spoke about it, I was really impressed about what they were trying to achieve.
Yeah.
To try and make it more inclusive for everybody, not just blind people, but for sighted people as well. But also to showcase new technology, something I had not seen before. I was really impressed by what they'd done today. So,
how did you feel when you first run your fingers down the picture?
Yeah, I mean,
how was the experience for you?
For me, it was an incredible experience because, rather than just looking, you can, use your fingertips to imagine. To sort of work out what it is that you're seeing or feeling, rather. I'm really impressed with the details that come out in this printing.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't really sure what to expect.
Because we've seen things like this before, which I don't think have quite hit the mark that this has.
No. Yeah, that's probably what I had in mind. I thought it might be quite primitive and quite basic. But yeah, I wasn't expecting to come across what I felt today.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that this can be used in the future, for mainstream galleries, around London and around the UK.
Is that where you see going then, do you think?
Yeah, there's no reason why it couldn't be, because people with vision impairment and blindness are interested in art as well. So why keep them out? We found a way to do it, so there's no reason why not to continue in the future, which is ironically what my picture is called.
Well, that's a good segue into talking about your picture then. Nicely done here. So I hear that it was Canon that chose the pictures to go into this exhibition. Would that be the same with yourself as well? Was it Canon that particularly earmarked this picture that they wanted to use?
Sorry, what was the question?
So I've also been talking with the other exhibitors, and they said it was Canon that chose the picture.
Chose it.
Was that the same with you?
Yeah, it's similar. They saw an image on my website that they really liked.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they couldn't use that because I use a different camera. So.
Right. Okay.
I used it was actually for Apple. So.
Okay.
So I sort of said to them that I'm more than happy to recreate something similar.
Yeah.
And so I gave Olivia a call and come down to my apartment and we shot it in my little studio at home back in January.
And tell me about Olivia then. Tell me about what about this picture and how it came out. I mean, obviously I know this is something you did for this exhibition, but the original picture obviously came about a project that you were doing.
Yeah, I mean, Olivia Dean, she's a model for an agency called Zebedee Talent, who is a talent agency that represent people with disabilities. And Olivia Dean, she's blind in her right eye, so she was kind of an ideal person to get involved because she's really keen to not just educate, but she wants to inspire younger people or older people to embrace their differences. So rather than not wearing a prosthetic eye, just being her natural self. So that's why I decided to take a portrait of her. We talked about this through the shoot. It's not just taking pictures. It's about engaging, communicating, learning about one another. And also, getting portraits at the same time.
Yeah, it's a whole experience, and that comes through in this photo definitely. And it comes through in many, proper, really good portraits, not just headshots. There is a difference, isn't there, to a proper portrait photographer like yourself does to what maybe other people do. Is capturing that essence of the person.
Yeah, and I wanted to catch her in a way that she's confident, sort of looking to the future to show how it can be done, and improve the things that we do now. We're constantly evolving, always rethinking new ideas. Becoming more open-minded about how we approach the world with disabilities.
Well, Ian, thank you very much.
Okay, Mark. Now, watching that back, I think, actually, do you remember going back 2 or 3 weeks ago? I'm sure you do. I'm sure everyone does. The news story that came out about some school photography where there was this issue with children with complex needs being left out of photos, and it caused a big issue. And the company involved released several press statements about that. And now I'm not going to talk about that, but what I want to talk about is now sort of coming back a couple of weeks on from that. We've got a really positive story with photography here, where involving people with a need, a disability of some sort, but you being used in a really positive way. So I think brilliant, and Canon hit this just at the right time as well. So for that reason alone, and obviously they didn't know about it at the time. Now, I have to say that the touch and feel of the work, I think, is incredible. The way that the 3D printing is done and everything, but
although it's not 3D printing, just
right.
to make it aware. I think Martin actually said that it's not 3D printing; it's a different technology.
Okay, so my sort of view on it is that as you touch and feel something, for me, that's not a person that's not visually impaired, but bearing in mind I had laser eye surgery going back, must be, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago now. I can't fully appreciate the value of that touch and feel compared to somebody who is visually impaired and whose maybe senses are maybe heightened a little bit more than mine. I honestly don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think that the people that are going to benefit, obviously, who are really going to benefit from it and really see the value are the people that are visually impaired, and I may not see that so much. So they're really my thoughts on it. So
yeah, I mean, I remember we did have a go with it, didn't we, at the photography show? And neither you and me, it was Brent's picture. It was the rhino, Sudan the rhino, and none of us guessed that it was a rhino. And it just shows how dependent me and you are with our sight. Now, I'm probably more visually impaired than you are because I have to wear my glasses. It's not just for reading or anything. I can't do anything without my glasses because I won't be able to see.
actually saying that, Mark, I was just saying, when I had my laser surgeries 15, 20 years ago now, at the time I had it done, I was told that with age, that they can't do anything about the natural aging process. So my eyes will deteriorate with age, and they have done.
But everybody's does. But it's a very different thing to what this exhibition's about. Lots of people wear glasses and can still see lots of things, which is fantastic. But we're talking about a proper visual impairment, maybe from birth or maybe through an accident or whatever it is, that actually means you can't see properly whether you're wearing glasses or not. So so yeah, I mean, so they do, visually impaired people do need to rely on their other senses more than what we do, I guess, because we have sight. So but what I would say is there's something I did neglect to mention right at the beginning. It was in that exhibition, they did have this sort of theatre room, and they were showing videos of when the photographer produced their work for a visually impaired person to experience. And one of the ones that I saw was actually with Yagazi, who we interviewed at the exhibition, and also with this blind content creator and activist Lucy Edwards, and she was in tears. I mean, it was very moving, and the people watching it in the theater were all kind of moved. I was moved. It was, that it was just that wow factor of when Lucy Edwards felt the picture for the first time and how she could describe it and understand it, and it was. So, like we said, we take this for granted because we can see, and it was a very moving bit, and that's what I got from it. Really, is the fact that this now. A group of people are now included in something like an art exhibition. Thought, the part of me's like, this should have been done years ago, but we are where we are. But it is fantastic, and I think also, what I really liked about it as well is that the exhibition wasn't just, they weren't pictures taken for this exhibition, if you know what I mean. When you see like we go to a movie theater and it's 3D, and you can tell there's scenes in that film which they've only put that scene in because it's 3D, like a screwdriver just floating in a sci-fi film or something like that. That's not what this was. This was work that had already been done. These pieces of work had a message. Yagatsi's was about the scars. You had Brent's image about the Sudan, the last white rhino. These were powerful images anyway. These were images that were telling their own story. So it wasn't, oh, let's just produce a load of work for visually impaired people. This was proper work, and it was already there. So visually impaired people can now understand these messages in a similar way to what we can, and I thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, and can I just say, I don't know if you've got any experience of sort of working with visually impaired people, but Mark, I've got a neighbour of mine who is visually impaired, and he's lost almost all of his sight. And he lives a couple of doors away from me, and I see him sort of a fair amount, and we go out as friends together, and he has to be helped occasionally. He will use a white stick. But if he wants to read a menu in a restaurant and it's sort of dimly lit, he carries this little foldable light with him that he puts on the table, and and we avoid going in. When we're booking a table somewhere, we'll say, "Oh, actually, we won't go there because it's actually really dark there." So, when you see, when you actually work with people that are visually impaired, then you start to realize that how valuable something like this could be for my neighbor. And it's not something I could get him to go to on this occasion, but I'll be making him aware of this and have a chat with him, because I'll see him in the next few days anyway. But yeah, I mean, fair play to Canon. I think it's it's great that.
I think it is wonderful. My only complaint with the exhibition was it's only on for a couple of days. I mean, it's actually, as recording now, it has actually finished. It was only on from the 5th to the 7th. I wish it'd been open for longer, because I think loads of people needed to experience this. It is touring though. It is going across Europe. So, hopefully that it'll be so popular that it'll be open again here. But if you are traveling abroad and you happen to see it advertised or whatever, go and check it out. It's just a marvelous exhibition.
Yeah, look at, and you'll see the links on that we've got on the here as well, below in the show here. But it's called World Unseen, and definitely worth checking out. So brilliant, and thanks again to Canon for inviting us to the press launch as well. That was great.
So that is the end of this first edition of our video. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We just need to have a quick shout out to our patrons. So we've got Amara Zainab, thank you very much for your continued support. Same as Carl Sherville, Nick Payne, and of course Rob Percy. So thanks ever so much. And if you guys want to sign up, please do. There's loads of extra goodies for you there.
Great stuff. Thank you, guys.
Guys, thank you very much for listening to the Photography Bar podcast. If you enjoy the show, please make sure to support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and TikTok, as well as our Patreon, all of which will be linked in the show notes. Please leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts.